Today we're talking about Daniel Goleman's emotional intelligence and what he writes about in his book. Before he wrote the book, he was working as a science journalist at the New York Times, and he noticed that all people who have effective leadership qualities or are outstanding performers have really high emotional intelligence. He states that emotional intelligence can be learned at any age or any stage of life, but you need it to be an effective leader, and it can be examined in 4 different domains. So the first domain is self-awareness, which is knowing your own feelings and where they're coming from, where they stem from, and using this knowledge about yourself to determine where you're standing in a situation emotionally and how it's impacting your own actions. This is the most important attribute, he says, and without it, you can't build the other skills needed for emotional intelligence. The second part is managing emotions, and there's different parts to this domain. There's 4 parts. So there's handling your upsetting emotions, so being able to push through things that are upsetting you to complete the task at hand and not letting yourself become overwhelmed or too sensitive or too upset to continue. The next part is managing your positive emotions, so making sure you're able to stay positive and look at the glass as half full, as he says, instead of half empty. This is important as you don't want to get overly excited about something, but you also want to maintain a good outlook on the situation at hand. The third part is agility, so this is being able to adapt to a situation, to change your mindset, to change your approach, and also a growth mindset, so to grow from your experiences and become better. The last part is to be goal focused, so picking a goal, sticking with it, and being able to discern which actions will lead you to that goal. The next domain is social awareness or empathy. There's 3 parts to this one as well. So the first part is cognitive empathy, which is being able to recognize different people's perspectives and to see where they're coming from. Picking up on language that they use, mannerisms, and matching how you speak to them to make sure you convey your message as clearly as possible. The next part is emotional empathy, which is an unconscious practice that we all do already, but he states that connecting emotionally to other people helps build trust and good rapport. And that leads into the third one as well, which is caring or concern. And this is showing people that you're concerned about them because then they trust you. So they all kind of connect in there. It's basically just reading how people are acting and how their emotions are impacting how they're acting and how their experiences all lead up to this moment. The fourth and final domain is relationship management. This is how you guide people, how you influence others, and it's about articulating your meaning to other people and how you show that you're a team player, but also a team leader. And this goes into inspiring and mentoring others so that your team can be the strongest it can be, while mentoring other people to become leaders eventually themselves. So my own personal opinions, I agree that emotional intelligence is the basis of good leadership. Without emotional intelligence, leaders can be seen as dictators or as bossy or many other negative views that people can have about you. In my own personal experience, I was a team manager. I did manage a team of retail employees, and I went through extensive leadership training within that role. In my experience, I believe the best way to connect with a team is to achieve goals together, and that means empowering them and mentoring them to become leaders themselves so that they can make decisions and decide for themselves what the goals will be for the team. And to do that, you have to have trust, and they have to trust you and you have to trust them. So emotional intelligence is key. I think without trust in myself and knowing my own emotional intelligence and where my emotions come from, if I don't have that, I can't trust my team to do things by themselves, and then they won't align with my goals either. So I think it's very important for everyone to first examine their own feelings and their own emotions and have control over that, as Dr. Goleman states, or Daniel Goleman, sorry. I also think that while emotional intelligence can be learned at any time in life, that it's not a one-stop shop. once you finish emotional intelligence, you'll become an effective leader. I don't believe that is a thing. I think that emotional intelligence is something that is continuous learning. There's always new experiences, there's always new feelings that arise. And so I think it's important to take time to continuously look inwards towards oneself and to know where those are coming from and to become better and to always have a growth mindset. In talking about relevance or significance when working as an interpreter or with a vulnerable community, I think it's important before entering that community to know yourself and to know your own emotions and your perspective and where those are affecting how you view those vulnerable people, because everybody has bias. It's just a fact of life. But because there's bias, those stem from our own perspective, our own experiences. So it's important to know where those are coming from and to recognize those biases before entering in the community. And once you're in that community, continuously finding those little biases that are affecting how you act towards other people as well. As an interpreter, I would think that you would both need to manage your positive and negative emotions. As an interpreter, you're put into different situations that can be very traumatic for the deaf individual, and they might be retelling something to a police officer or in a medical sense, and sometimes these things can be very upsetting for someone outside to hear as well as the deaf individual. So making sure that you can manage your own emotions is, I think, very imperative. It's very, very important because you don't want your emotional state to impact the client, the deaf individual, and how they're responding as well. So I think that that is probably one of the most important parts of being an interpreter, is managing your own emotions. I also think that social awareness is important in being an interpreter, picking up on language that's used, on jargon, on different behaviors that the deaf individual might be exhibiting, to make sure that you match how you're talking to them, especially as the bridge between a hearing person and a deaf person. If the hearing person is using language that the deaf person would never use, doesn't understand, you want to switch that into something that they will understand while still conveying the complete message. I think that relation management for an interpreter can look like a few things: demonstrating allyship, whether at events or in daily life. This can look like standing with the deaf person in social interactions, like backing them, and that maintains trust in the relationship. Overall, I think that Daniel Goleman, he talks about many important things within social intelligence or emotional intelligence. And I think that they do affect our daily interactions in society. And I think that they're not just for successful people, but that they should be for everyone. And yeah, that's my opinion.